You are now listening to the CarLifestyle Podcast.
With host
Seth Rose from Exotics Rally,
T-NYC from CarLifestyle,
Elizabeth White from It's White Noise.
CarLifestyle.
Welcome back to the CarLifestyle Podcast. I'm Seth Rose from Exotics Rally, and I am here with my co-host, T- from CarLifestyle.
Yo.
And Elizabeth White from It's White Noise.
Hey, guys.
And on this episode, we have two very special guests, one local and one from a little bit of a distance, who is joining us via speakerphone from the other side of the country. So we'd like to welcome Scott and Zach from Cannonball Run.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so a lot of people, a lot of listeners know that Cannonball Run is synonymous with, some of the older folks might relate to a movie from way back when. And today, in today's day and age, a lot of us are associating it now with a new rally that was born, I believe, in 2014. The concept came about.
Correct. The concept came about in around 2014.
Okay, and you and Zach are partners and owners of Cannonball Run, which is a rally currently that recently took place in the U.S.
Correct.
And ended, I think, in Cuba.
Yes, we
Not with the cars. You didn't drive to Cuba, obviously.
Yes, we did not drive to Cuba. Unfortunately, that would have been too problematic. So we took
would have been really
the
fucking
rally
cool,
started.
though.
It would have been cool, and now we're dreaming about attempting that at another time.
Okay.
But the rally started in Lenox, Massachusetts, in these two beautiful twin mansions where we put everybody up in and threw a really nice start party, and then ended the driving portion in Key West.
Now, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because there are so many rallies in the United States. And I've participated in a bunch, and likewise Liz has as well, and I think T- has come along on a few also.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, just the ones that come to mind, you've got Bull Run Rally, which I participated in, which kind of went defunct and is now, they're trying to have a little bit of a rebirth. You've got Gold Rush Rally, you've got Gumball Rally. What separates yours from those?
Zach, would you like to start?
Sure. So our rally was born out of us participating in all of those rallies, or some and all as a group, and taking some of the items we liked from each and putting them into ours. Not trying to do better or different, just doing our own version of what rallying was for us. Going to fun different places, maybe off the beaten track, not necessarily going to big cities, more doing it for an adventure. So we picked really nice, either upscale luxury properties or unique properties in places in the country that people wouldn't normally go to. And we picked a destination that we thought everybody would like to go to as part of a wrap-up. Go to a destination that either has a car culture to it, which Cuba very much had a car culture that had been locked away and just happened to come on the radar this year. So it coincided with what we wanted to do. And we wanted to take advantage this year, particularly, of the Northeast in the fall, just because it was something, again, I hadn't seen done on a rally before, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to try it out.
So based on, did it come from your experiences on other rallies, or was it just by taking surveys from people that you tried to take the best parts of all these rallies and put it into yours? How'd you go about?
No, definitely from experiences, from the things that we liked as a group. Scott, myself, Steve, and Jovi, and the other two partners that aren't on the call today, we took all of our ideas, some stuff that we had just thought about as our own, as all growing up car people, things that we wanted to do on a car rally, and then things that we did on car rallies or didn't do on some of the other major rallies. You know, the travel aspect of Gumball, some of the luxury items from Gold Rush, some of the items from some of the classic vintage rallies I've done in Europe, where they go to really grand estate type of places, or they include meals like the manufacturer rallies. Just a little bit of everything, and then our own spin on it. So what would make going and spending a week with your friends in your cars a fun trip together? That's kind of our concept, and then we built off of that.
And whose was it? All four people's ideas? 'Cause I know there are four people involved. There's you, Scott, and then you've got Steve Goldfield, and then Jovi and Yo. Who, I'm friendly with Jovi, so I know a little bit about how his involvement was. But how did all four of you just all of a sudden decide to start a rally? Because so many people try to start rallies. There's a lot of guys out there like, oh, we could do this. And I know firsthand because I've organized rallies, it is a huge undertaking. It's not for the faint of heart. It is, an up at dawn, late at night, absolute, crunching to get this done.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to take that if I can.
Sure.
Just to go back just a little bit. So, a little bit more history. I've been on Gumball 3 times. I think Steve's been on Gumball 4 times. I've been on every Gold Rush except last year because we knew we were starting on our rally. Multiple local rallies, including your own.
Right.
And we felt like what was important to us wasn't happening in those rallies. And the 2 things that were most important to us, main things, were we wanted to go to places that we've never been before and drive roads that we've never been on before. And at the same time, we also wanted to stay in hotels and stay in venues that made the whole overall experience feel like you were living in a movie. And so we wanted it to be bigger, more grand, capture your attention, hold your attention, and be an experience that was so all-encompassing that every day felt different. When we were planning the cities, we didn't pick the cities like most rallies do that are going to give you the largest fanfare. We picked cities that were closest to the best roads we wanted to drive. When we were putting together this rally, we drove over 13,000 miles, rerunning the route over and over and over again until we put together a drive that we felt was completely differentiated. Whenever possible, we were never on highways, except when we got into Florida and had no choice. Most everything was back roads and small towns. At the same time, same for our accommodations. We were picking places that, as mentioned, the beginning of our rally, where we had these 2 houses that were mansions that were converted to hotels, where we had our black tie dinner that ended up with a live band and karaoke at the end, down to a private island on Key West where we all had to take a boat, and we have these villas on the water, to group dinners that were happening in the most obscure places and times. So everything was geared that during the day, we were going to give you the best roads you have ever seen, fully differentiated from anything you've driven on in the past. And during the night, we were going to give you events with people, because it was also important, it was all inclusive, that felt different every single night. And it was this kind of larger than life experience that can allow you to enjoy the company of others and get to know them that are on the rally, but at the same time during the day, do some real driving. And we felt the current rallies today, unfortunately, have been watered down to a theme. Pick Chicago.
I agree with
pick
you.
this town.
And
pick
way
this
too
city.
much. And way too much highway driving. Where it's just
Right.
Yeah.
where it's just follow the leader, and it's boring as can be, and
Yes.
there is absolutely nothing thrilling about the drives on a lot of these rallies.
Nothing. It's 500-mile day to 600-mile day to 500-mile day from big city to big city. By the time you get to the hotel room, it's 9 o'clock at night. You barely attempt to eat something. You have no time to spend with the group and get to know them. You don't even get to see the property you're staying on.
That's one of the biggest problems I've had on a lot of rallies. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
okay.
My experience on Gold Rush Rally, I went on Gold Rush 4. So that was quite a while ago. But there was no camaraderie whatsoever. I knew 6 people at the beginning, and I think I knew 7 at the end.
Yeah. So for us, camaraderie was also huge. It started off with, not only do we have a pre-chat room that everybody was able to get on and get to know each other and share their cars and their wraps and things that they were thinking about, but at the same time, when you got there, the first thing you got was a lanyard that actually had your name printed on it, and people wore it the whole time. And I know people hate name tags,
It's like
but you
a
know
hello,
what?
my name is, but it helps.
It was great. Everybody knew everybody, and we had people that had never been on rallies before, and we had people that had been going on, that came from Europe, that had been going on Gumball for 9 years. In fact, the most amazing thing is that I would say 80% of the people on the rally were from other rallies. We had people representing 12 different countries, and not to toot our own horn, but I have to say that everybody looked up and said the ability to get to know each other, the camaraderie, the roads were beyond anything they ever experienced.
What was your price point on the rally?
So the price point on the rally was $18,500, which included, of course, all your hotel rooms, included lunches, dinners. Also included our 2 twin first-class private jets that took us from Key West to Cuba. Then the time in Cuba where we had old 1950s cars that were stickered up with Cannonball that would drive you around wherever you wanted to go. In Cuba, we had hotels. We also had private villas on the
Cuba
beach.
that cost like $5 a cab.
It's true.
I feel like I was tipping them a whole week's worth of pay.
I was
every
watching
single
a show.
time
It's funny to bring up Cuba because I was watching a show last night called The Prophet,
Yes.
which took place in Cuba with Marcus Lemonis. And these guys, these cab drivers, make like $25 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's their salary.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's pretty
They loved
mind-boggling.
us.
But it definitely is a cool
Not when
place
we
to go
hired-
to.
Not when we hired them private. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
They made quite a bit more than $25.
Oh, I'm sure they made a lot more. I mean, it was a home run for them.
Yeah, no,
They're all moving to the States.
Yeah. They all have new cars now.
Which is awesome. I mean, they're going to definitely upgrade their 1954 Chevy. But, all right, so your price point was $18,500. How many participants did you have? How many cars?
We had 43 teams, I think, is where we netted out.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think our grand total of cars, and they never were in the same place at the same time, so that made it difficult to do a real car count. But our
Sure.
grand total of cars by the time we got to the parking garage in Key West was just over 50.
Okay, so you had some people, I'm assuming, that did a portion of the rally and some that did the full rally.
Yeah, we had some that joined in Atlanta because they had come in late, and because of the lodging restrictions we had on the some of the private properties in the Northeast, we could only accommodate so many people. We were actually maxed out and then some at a couple properties. The owners, myself, the staff, everybody still stayed offsite a couple nights.
That's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. But from Atlanta down, and because the story kind of changed a little from Atlanta down, we went from the Northeast roads to more the big city in Atlanta with the nightclub and the larger Ritz-Carltons in Florida. We were able to accommodate a few extra teams, and we took those down. And then we had a couple teams join us just from Palm Beach to Key West so that they could come to Cuba with us. We tried to accommodate people's schedules and what they could do to come on the rally with us.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's hard to get everybody together and working, in tune. The logistics behind it are unsurmountable. I mean, people don't understand. They really don't.
Yeah, and to that point, people often ask me, so how hard was it? And I look at them and say, well, if I knew it was this hard, we probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's Zach was in charge of logistics. He could speak to it for days. But when we were moving over 250 pieces of luggage, all the cars, and then you add the complications of passports, international travel to one of the only 2 countries in the world that the United States says you're not allowed to go to all the other amenities and food and parties where we had set menus. It was like a wedding every night.
We were seriously through 50% of the time, no cell phone coverage, no internet. Even one of the hotels did not have Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or cell service.
Crazy. Yeah, no cell service there. There's one phone that everyone had to
Did
use.
anybody have a breakdown?
Well, of course, Brian Solomon, doesn't he have a breakdown every rally?
What
Oh,
type
yes.
of breakdown, actually, are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Yeah, that's for sure. Brian doesn't have any luck on rallies. It's always something.
It's remarkable. When I got the message, Brian's car is down, I couldn't believe it because he and I joke about it, how every rally he has a breakdown. So nicely enough, one of our sponsors, our trucking sponsor, is also the official Lamborghini of North America official trucking company. So they were moving some cars for us, LG, and they were able to run over and pick up Brian's car. We found a tire for him on a Sunday.
Right,
They
I
put the
remember.
tire on, and we trucked the car all the way into the next destination.
Well, thank God.
Yeah, he was happy.
Because Brian without his car is like a fish without water.
Yeah, this is true.
Legit.
and he managed to break down in the absolute worst part. I mean, we were out in
Oh,
the country.
Nowhere.
I saw it online. It was desolate.
It was the middle of West Virginia.
Oh, he told me. What did he tell me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he told
broke
me.
down
Blue Ridge
in
Mountains?
nowhere, West Virginia, which West Virginia is already off the map, but where he broke down in West Virginia was definitely in a funny area. he had to go knock on doors before he could find.
Yeah, he told me he had to go to a ranger station to get you guys.
Yeah, he had to knock on doors to find someone to use a landline phone to call one of us,
That's
which
awful.
he.
That's awful.
It
He
really
should've
is
gone to
awful.
your house.
I know. Well, he could have gone to my house.
So overall, the Cannonball Run, would you say it was a wild success, a good success? What would you say your success rate was?
I could only rate it on two ways. First, my own personal experience after doing rallies for 13 years. It certainly was differentiated from any rally that I had ever been on. The accommodations, the roads, the people, there was really no comparison. Personally, as a participant, it was definitely differentiated. From word of mouth of the people that are on it,
Yeah.
all I hear is, we can't wait for next year. I'm
So-
not
so it
bringing
sounds
two
like you're
cars,
gonna
I'm
have a
bringing
good
4
return
cars.
rate.
And yeah, it's outside of a couple haters, we haven't heard anybody say that it wasn't the rally of their life or the time of their life.
All right. So since you brought up the word haters,
I was just going to say quickly that this was a long rally. This was
Yeah, it-
not
it
a
was.
weekend. This was 10 days. And
Wow.
every day
I didn't know
actually
that.
felt different. And I liked everyone on it. I actually started this WhatsApp group, and we still have 86 participants that talk to each other every
Every
single
day.
day. We're updating each other about our lives.
10 days is long, but it sounds long, but it goes quickly when you're on the rally because you're doing a lot of driving and a lot of late night activities. So it does go pretty quick. I mean, I remember just doing bull run for 8 days, and by the 5th day, you can't believe it's almost over. So it does go kind of quick, but I'm glad to see that you're going to have a good return rate. That's important. So, but again, since you mentioned the word haters, that's going to get us to the next topic of this podcast regarding Cannonball Run. And something that started to take place prior to Cannonball Run ending, which I don't necessarily agree with. Well, I mean, I don't really agree with anything, but I think was a little bit of a low blow, considering that being that the owners and organizers are on the road tending to their participants and more important things, that somebody was starting to lash out on the internet to basically poke at Cannonball Run. So this person who has been on the podcast in the past, his name is Alex Roy. He is a writer for The Drive. He's also a record holder for transcontinental driving, amongst other things. So what was your initial reaction to his articles? I mean, his articles were basically, without getting into detail, were bashing Cannonball Run and the usage of the name Cannonball Run for the lack of respect regarding Brock Yates, who had untimely passed right before Cannonball Run started the rally, which in Cannonball Run's defense, I will say that nobody could bet on when he was going to pass, and it was unfortunate at the timeline that it happened. Nobody wanted to revel in the passing of Brock Yates, who was a pioneer of transcontinental racing. So with that said, why don't you start with your initial reaction to the articles that were written?
So this is a passionate subject for me and Zach, actually all 4 of us. So Zach, I'm going to start because I can't control myself. So I'm going to go first if that's okay.
Let it rip.
But I like to start at the end and work backwards. This is what I say in
Sure.
the office all the time. Let's start at the end and work backwards. There's this concept of rally wars and haters out there. There's a lot of great rallies out there, and there's a lot of rallies that are bashing other rallies. I don't get it. There are over 6 billion people on the planet, and when we put together a rally, you're talking about bringing anywhere from 50 cars to 100 cars, 30 cars to
such
80
a
cars,
fraction.
6 billion. So when I did the math just on 330 million people in America, and I was looking, we as a group were looking to get 50 cars, that's point, and then you put six zeros and then a 1% of 1% of what we're looking to get. So when there's a lot of people out there from other rallies, which I won't name, but they rhyme with Smold Lush, but they're constantly like hitting us up and bagging on us and
Yes, they
attacking
are.
us.
I know.
And
I've
it's like,
seen it all.
why are you doing that? If you, again, starting at the end and working backwards, if you love cars, if you love driving, if you love and respect and enjoy the company and participation of people that love those same things, why are you mad at me? And why do you hate me?
Because here's the problem. The problem is that you four did what a smart business organization would do. And what you did was you looked at the mousetrap and said, how can I make a better mousetrap? And you took people's suggestions and people's gripes from other rallies, and you said, how can I make a better rally? Because they were not, after I don't know how many years, 7 or 8 years that they were doing it, they did not change. They have a business model that they believe works for them. It may not work for everybody, but you felt that it didn't work for you, and you felt that something else would work, and that's what you did. So why are they upset? I'll tell you why they're upset. Because they are losing participants to you. And not so many lost. A lot of people did both rallies. But listen, it takes somebody with balls to do it. And you did it. And I'm not necessarily saying that your mousetrap is better. For you, it's better. And for a lot of other people, it may be better. And that's why they chose it.
Correct, and it is different. It's an absolutely differentiated rally from what they did, and we even picked a completely different time of the year to do it so we wouldn't overlap. But for all of those people that are hating, it's hard for me to stomach because I love everything automotive. I love everything driving. And I don't have anything bad to say about other rallies. I go on other rallies. I still go on other rallies.
Sure.
I already
Same.
signed up for Corsa this year. I was on Corsa last year, and I will continue to go on a multitude of rallies.
I did 11 last year.
How many did you
11.
do? 11.
Oh, my God.
11 rallies.
Yeah, some vintage, some supercar.
Wow.
Yeah, big ones, small ones.
I can't compete with that.
Why did you slack?
Yeah, seriously.
I know, I needed
'Cause
to at
they were
least
like,
do 12
There were
next
like
year.
32 of them, and you only went to 11. It's not even like
I did
you know,
two like back to back. They
not
were
even
crazy.
50%.
Are you going to do triathlons this year?
Maybe.
All right. Don't bring me.
So
So to answer your other part of the question about the haters with the name Cannonball, it's such a long story, but again, I'll try to sum it up a little bit, and I know we'll probably end up going deeper. There was a gentleman by the name of Irwin Baker. In 1914, Irwin Baker drove a motorcycle across the United States, setting a record. After setting that, there was a journalist in New York that gave him a nickname, Cannonball, which was named after a train in Illinois, a regional train in Illinois, mind you, not a train that went to transcontinental. So that became Irwin Cannonball Baker's name. Irwin went on to drive motorcycles for exhibitions, for going to places that people had never seen this technology before because there was no internet, there was no TV, so manufacturers would pay him to take these cars around and motorcycles around so they could see him. He eventually went on to switch from motorcycles to cars, and at that point, he was going all over the place. He was in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Mexico, the United States, and was not only doing, again, setting records from point A to point B, but at the exact same time also showing off manufacturers' latest technologies. And that's what Irwin Cannonball Baker did. Flash forward to the 70s, Brock Yates decided that he would put together his own rallies. Those rallies he called Cannonball Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. The important things there are Cannonball and Memorial, because it was memorializing one very small aspect of what Irwin Cannonball Baker did, which is his drives transcontinental setting times. The Brock Yates rallies were about a multitude of things. They were mainly to protest interstate
speed
limits, but also to have fun. So unbeknownst to other people on the internet, when they merely want to focus on setting times from Los Angeles to New York, Brock Yates's cannonballs were about teams, they were about camaraderie, they were about themes, they were about new technology. You had Ferrari, you had Mercedes, you had Porsche.
you had the invention of the radar detector.
There you go.
Yeah.
What came through Cannonball?
No, it didn't come through that, but it was the
They
first
used
real usage of it.
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Fuzzbusters.
Yeah, Fuzzbusters, exactly. And that's what it was about. There was also a component that it was about, hey, let's see who can get from point A to point B the quickest. Correct. That's where the denotation to Cannonball came in, because he was paying homage to one of the things that Irwin Cannonball Baker did in his career.
Right, which was on a motorcycle.
Yes. And so now we flash forward to where we sit today. We, too, are inspired by Irwin. Irwin was about driving roads all over the world. He was about bringing cars and technology to people that have never seen it before, which we did when we were sitting in Lenox, Massachusetts, where the whole entire town of 2,000 people showed up to see cars that they had never seen before. Kids were losing their mind. We were passing out stickers. That's what Irwin used to do. So we embodied what Irwin did, and we pay homage to that, just like Brock Yates did. So for the people that think that the only thing we should be doing if we have the name Cannonball in our rally is set time trials across the United States, is a sheer misnomer, because that's not what Cannonball stood for. And if you want to relate it to what Yates did, that made up one aspect of Brock Yates. And now let me flash forward a little bit more, because Brock Yates also had cannonballs in 2002, 2003, 2004, and 2005. And those were all regional. Correct. They did not go across the United States, and they were not time trials. So for the people that say, well, if you're only going to do Cannonball and you're only going to do what Yates did, then you need to do it in a pre-1979 car, and you need to go just across the United States. Well, if you think that's all that Brock Yates did, then you should do a little bit of research, because it's not true. And if you think that's all that Irwin Cannonball Baker did, you need to do some research, because yet again, that's not true. And one more thing, because I'm on a roll. I apologize.
Go ahead.
The people that are upset with the use of the word Cannonball. Well, it was a reporter that gave it to Irwin for what he did. It was borrowed by Brock Yates, and it's being borrowed by us, because it's Irwin that owns it. So if it's okay for Brock to borrow it, it should be okay for us to borrow it, because Brock didn't invent it. And Brock, even in his own words, when he say it's a memorial run, again, is paying tribute to him. There are a lot of people doing it. There are multiple cannonballs all over the world.
Yeah, I did Cannonball Run Europe and Cannonball Ireland, and there's one in New Zealand.
There's one in
and
Canada.
There's one on ice,
Yes.
and there's one in Canada and in Russia.
And there you go. New Zealand, Canada, those are places that Irwin Cannonball Baker did a lot of his driving. And just lastly, and then I'll shut up, if you look at the word cannonball, everybody's paying homage to it in the rally world. You have gumball, you have dustball, you have snowball, you have modball, you
even have
black
gutter
ball.
ball.
Pardon me?
Gutter ball. Have you heard of that?
You have
Gutter
gutter
ball,
ball.
must ball, dust ball.
Yeah.
So you have
a million different.
7 rallies, all using the name ball in it, including a rally that's just called the ball.
Really?
According to Webster's dictionary, there are 250,000 words in the English language. How is it that people that are going to name their rallies, we can name 7 of them right now that all use the word ball? Why? Because they're completely paying homage to Cannonball.
Well, not necessarily, because the word gumball is the description of the actual round logo that is used in rallies.
It is, but if you look at where Gumball came from, Gumball was another studio's answer to the Cannonball Run movies. So they needed to answer those Cannonball movies, so they invented Gumball and pretended like it was a real thing that happened, even though it never did happen. And when Maximilian Cooper wanted to start his rally, he couldn't use the name Cannonball, so he defaulted to the movie Gumball.
And why couldn't he use the name Cannonball?
Because at that time it was still IP of the Yates family.
Okay. And it's no longer?
Well, the Yates family does have different pieces of IP under that.
Okay, so if Maximilian couldn't use it,
Because IP doesn't last forever.
Oh, okay. I
So
don't
it was
know.
back in the time when he was doing it, that's when the IP landscape was differentiated.
Okay. Now, the biggest gripe that I read that he has is, of course, that Alex Roy has, is that the use of the name Cannonball Run, he's basically saying is an insult to the Brock Yates family. Have you ever spoken to the Brock Yates family?
We have spoken to the Brock Yates family.
And what? Because I've never spoken to them. I think I've spoken to Brock Yates Jr. once online in a Facebook group.
So
But-
we have spoken to and are currently in conversations with representatives of the Brock Yates family. So no, I have not spoken to them directly, but we are in communication with their representatives, and we also are honoring them by doing charity events for Brock Yates Memorial Fund.
There's a Yates Foundation, I think, or something?
Yes, it's with the Alzheimer's group, and it's the Brock Yates Memorial Fund, and we raised money for it on Cannonball, and we've all, as owners, have donated ourselves to the Yates Foundation. And we will continue to make the Yates Foundation our main charity for Cannonball on a go-forward basis.
Was that something initially that you wanted to do, or is that something that because of this, or?
No, it was always part of the plan.
It was always part of the plan.
It was in play way before we started talking to any of the representatives of the Yates family.
Yeah, I know. Because, just reading the article now, I don't know what's fact, what's fiction. That's why we're doing these podcasts, because we did one with Alex Roy as well to hear his side of his story. And he brought up something interesting, which was something about your website, and that something midway or after your rally or something excluded Brock Yates, and originally it had Brock Yates on it. Was there anything with that?
Yes, there was something with that. We had a request that we do not use the Yates image, Brock's image, unless it's in conjunction with his charity.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know there was an image.
Yeah. So we took the image off, and now we only use the image when we are raising money for his charity.
Gotcha.
Which we did when we were auctioning off 4 trips that started in Key West, where participants would come on. It was on the If Only auction site, and participants would start with the rally in Key West and then come with us to Cuba.
So now, it's my understanding, and I'm only getting I'm only getting these understandings from the articles that I've read, because we haven't had an opportunity to talk before today. I believe you have the name trademarked now.
We do.
So it's Cannonball Run or Cannonball Run Rally?
Cannonball Run.
Cannonball Run, so that's trademarked, so you own that.
Correct.
So I'm assuming you're going to continue to use the name, and there's no
Yes.
issue with that.
As far as we sit right now, there's no issue with it.
Right. Okay. I was just curious. So what's in store for Cannonball Run next?
Incidentally, I want to go back to that something that you mentioned about the Yates charity. Again, not to name any names, but that person that we've been talking about whose name rhymes with little boy,
I love it. I was waiting for that, man.
who says that
With Skrillex Boy.
we should be that we should be donating to the Yates family after every rally we do, et cetera, and donating to Brock Yates Memorial Fund. And why aren't we saying something about his passing, et cetera? Well, we did send a note directly to the family at Brock's passing. We were in communication with his family prior to Brock's passing, and post Brock's passing and post our rally, we donated to the fund. And if you go on the website, there's a list of every single person that has ever donated to the fund. And Alex Roy is not on that list. For all his bravado of why aren't you donating, why aren't you doing the rally in a pre-1979 car, why aren't you donating? Well, Alex, you've never done the rally in the pre-1979 car. You've done it in your M5, and you just did it in a Tesla. And you've never donated to the Yates Foundation, but I've done a cross-country rally in a 1966 Pontiac GTO when I was in college to try to set the best time I could.
How'd that work out?
It worked out horribly. The car broke 5 times.
The car.
And at the same time, donates to the Yates family. So, I don't know. Curious. Very curious.
Yeah, just, go ahead, Zach.
Well, and you also join a handful of probably under 5 people that have participated in a modern rally in a pre-79 car. You drove the Mira in Denver on Gold Rush. So the fact of the matter that we don't do any of those things is a little outlandish. The fact of the matter that we don't represent all those issues that were brought up on that is also a little outlandish. We live, sleep, and breathe cars, vintage and modern, car rallying, and everything else. So I just think that two sides of the coin. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Zach, just to mention it, 2 years ago when we went on Gold Rush together, Zach dusted off a 1967 or 69?
69.
69 Miura that hadn't been started in over 20 years, spent a week rebuilding the engine, put it in a truck, brought it out, and drove it on Gold Rush. And in most cases, kicked everybody's ass in it. It was gorgeous. He was fixing it at lunch. He was keeping it together with spit and tape. It had no seats in the car, no environmental controls,
No air conditioning.
no anything. Sometimes didn't even have a top gear, but we
It
would
had
stop
no
in the middle.
seats?
Pardon me?
Had no seats?
Because they're just fiberglass shells.
Oh, right.
And all the foam and padding and everything was gone, so you're just sitting on the floor, and did Gold Rush in it. So I'd like to see Alex Roy do that. Or the C2C guys that are always complaining about us that we're
Yeah.
a bunch of pussies. Well, really? Why don't you go dust off a car, spend a week rebuilding an engine, get in it, and drive it for 2,500 miles?
I mean, they're just as passionate you are, but I don't see what the craziness is. I mean, they're passionate about what they've done. They're passionate about their quote unquote leader or godfather of rallies, which was Brock Yates. And I mean, I think there's always room for fresh blood and for fresh ideas. And I think it's a little overdone with this battle about it. I mean, you're saying that the rally should really be paying homage to Erwin Baker.
Correct. That's what Brock Yates did. He
Right. So
paid homage to Erwin Baker.
Just to play devil's advocate with you, just for the heck of it, and I have to put it out there, then why be so concerned about Brock Yates and even donating to them if you don't pay, if it's really not paying homage to him and paying homage to Erwin Baker, and he's the one that started it and should be the one that's concerned and focused on. Why make a donation even to Brock Yates? Why even worry about him being on the website? Why even acknowledge him?
So twofold. One, when we were starting, because we like to be all inclusive and we like to honor the people. If you read our website, you'll see it, that paved the way for us. They paved this way. We might not be doing this if there was no Erwin, if there was no Brock. Who knows if rallying would exist?
What about Gumball and Gold Rush? You going to pay homage to them? Just curious.
That's a good point. So are we going to? Well, are we going to pay homage to them? Probably not, but might we still go on their rallies? Sure. I know Zach and Steve just called Gumball the other day about getting on the rally if there was any open spots. And we tried to find Erwin's descendants. And we contacted Ancestry.com and we worked on it.
I could find them.
Well, that would be great if you could. And it's stalled out.
I can find them.
It's stalled out. And if you were at the beginning of our rally, you would see that we had two huge posters. Mm-hmm. One poster was a big picture of Erwin Cannonball Baker. And the other poster, to raise money for Brock's charity, was a picture of Yates with information about donating to the charity. And that's the past. And we like that. We like that it comes from the past.
Well, I think there's one more thing to that, too, because the generation we all grew up with is, if you want to ask why we pay homage to Brock and the memory of Brock in association with car rallies as we know them today, is the movie. I mean, the movie, to all of us, of the generation that we are, that movie defined a lot of what car rallying is today. Not cross-country records, not racing on public highways, but a bunch of wild people getting together, eclectic people getting together, the cars from all over the place. In his movie, he chose to write that movie. He could have done a documentary on what it was like to drive by yourself with your buddy across country in dark with radar detectors, scanners, helicopters, escort vehicles, all that. But instead, his movie was every top comedian in Hollywood at the time, every latest and greatest car, a Countach going across the desert with two hot girls in costumes in it, guys in an ambulance dressed up as doctors, every crazy thing you can think of that we now kind of associate with car rallying. So that's the homage too. It's not just about the coast-to-coast race, and it's not just about the pioneers in the motor world like Erwin. And there's another guy too that doesn't get any name recognition, which was Horatio Jackson, who was the first person to ever drive a car cross country.
That's right.
A couple years before Irwin did it in a motorcycle. Everybody paved the way for us. And because of the time that they lived in versus the time we are now, that's how things are different. Nobody was running around in a Veyron back in the 70s, or we're not riding on an on a no suspension motorcycle, a 1914 motorcycle. I mean, it's all
not.
kind of it's an evolution, not necessarily one thing's better than the other or one person's better than the other.
Yeah, but I want to just focus on evolution for 1 second, because you've got people like Alex Roy and C2C. They've picked the things that they think Irwin stood for, they think Brock stood for. They pick just the sections they like. And then it's okay.
Well,
but
I was going to say, the irony behind it all is the people that are bitching about you calling it Cannonball Run, they all participated in illegal events.
that's right.
These were illegal. There was nothing legal about anything that Alex Roy did, nothing legal about anything that Richard Rawlings allegedly did, nothing legal about Ed Bolian or the rest of them, even Irwin Baker. There's nothing legal about what they did. Your rally is a legitimate function within, the letter of the law, or it should be, and that's what you, I'm sure, explain to your participants, that it doesn't give you a right to speed or break the law or, act irrational on the road. So the people that are actually, coming at you and fighting you on this are people that are,
Guilty of the same crime.
are unlawful, drivers.
But not only that, if you took a list of the 20 things that Irwin did, if you did a list of the 20 things that Brock Yates did, the time trial is one or two or three of it on there. So what about the other 17? So we're not doing the time trial, but we're doing all the other 17 things. But that's enough to make them get angry at us. Yet the 3 things that we can't do are illegal. So we are modern day interpretation. Brock Yates was a modern day interpretation of what Irwin did. We are a modern day interpretation of what Irwin did.
Right, and as Zach says, and so goes the evolution.
And so goes the evolution.
Makes sense.
All right.
You are extremely vetted, and I appreciate listening to you.
Oh, thank you.
So where do you go from here with the whole Alex Roy Cannonball Run dispute? Is there anything lingering out there, or is it just a dead issue?
Well, we hope it's a dead issue because we don't understand it at all. And you know what? Let's go a little further. So because he's throwing punches, so I'm going to throw a couple punches.
Sure.
Unbeknownst to everybody that he's yammering onto, let's talk about all the things that are mythical in his statements. Number one, he came to us and we went to lunch that he picked a restaurant and paid for. He talked about 3 specific things about getting involved. All of those 3 things involved us giving him money. We aren't giving money. Nobody goes on our rally for free, and we aren't giving money because every single penny, this is another thing that we should have brought up that differentiated our rally from everybody else's. The 4 partners here, we have day jobs. We aren't doing this for money. We are doing this for break even. This year we didn't break even. We're in the hole on it. But the idea is to run a break even rally that every penny of the participants' money that comes in goes out. And that's part of our selling material and part of everything that everybody knows. That's how you pay for private jets. That's how you pay for mansions. Sure. That's how you pay for 4-course meals. Can't give you a free hotel room in this mansion because it costs $2,500 a night. Can't do it. I got another idea. So went through all these ideas, left lunch, and then heard nothing after I told him there's going to be no money.
Well, he didn't include that in his article.
So strangely enough, he doesn't include that. Okay? And then he talks about all the things that we're supposed to do as Cannonball according to Alex. So if you look at what Alex does, he gets in a modern day car filled with electronics by himself or a co-pilot, no other cars, and drives across the United States as fast as he can so he can use that to self-promote. Check me out. Look what I did. He just did it in a Tesla. Look what I did. But then he gets on and talks about us that why aren't we doing it pre-1979 cars? Well, you don't do that, Alex. Why are you guys driving in a group? Wait a minute. We're not supposed to drive in a group? And we're not supposed to have a group of cars? Well, that's what C2C does. And that's what Brock Yates did. So make up your mind. You're either doing it solo with a bunch of radar detectors or you're doing it in a group. Oh, they did costumes and they did mock stuff. There's graphics on their car. Well, wait a minute. The Daytona you were in was not only a modern day, very expensive car, but it was also had a sponsorship sticker on it and graphics. And there was people who did it on motorhomes. He said, "Oh, a car with the name Cannonball in it? That's a speeding ticket trap." Really? Here's a motorhome that went on Cannonball, on Yates's Cannonball, that says on the side of it, Cannonball, with guys in costumes in front. So he's just making it sound convenient how it fits Alex Roy's own personal view of how he's been personally using Cannonball to not only build up his own brand equity, but to write books and get monetary compensation for it.
I don't know. I can't speak for him.
Touche.
I can't speak for him. But that is interesting. I did not know all that.
Maybe we should get Alex Roy at one side of the table.
I would
and
love
Scott O'Shea at the
to.
other
I would
side.
love to because he writes all these things that were so wrong. We didn't have notable drivers. We had notable drivers. We had the test driver from the Haas F1 team stop by and do 2 days.
Santino Frucci.
Yeah, do 2 days with us. A Cannonball car would never have graphics on it. A Cannonball, not true, because his own Daytona did.
Brock's Daytona.
No,
BMW.
Pardon me?
The BMW?
The BMW did, but
yeah.
when I said his, I meant Brock
Yates,
Yates's car.
yes. All the cars had decals. They,
Yeah. So
I don't know. I can't
there's
remember
more
many that
costumes.
didn't.
I mean, the only thing that we didn't do is turn it into a race because we can't.
Right.
Rules of the
Everything
road.
else we did.
It wasn't a competitive race from point A to point B.
Correct. And it was
was a tour.
regional. It was a tour. And it was regional. But then again, as I mentioned, Brock Yates himself had 4 Cannonballs that were regional. So to the C2C guys that are saying the only real Cannonball is a transcontinental Cannonball, according to Yates and Irwin, they're completely wrong.
Okay. Well, put that in your pipe and smoke it,
Alex Roy
Alex.
might have to go back to the drawing board.
Listen, it's an interesting perspective on both parts. I know there's lots of fact finding on both parts. I can't discredit anyone. Your explanations are valuable, and they do make sense. I don't know if that's what prompted it. It sure sounds like the attack was prompted by something like that. I don't know for sure. We had Alex on another podcast, which will be aired, where he goes into details of, his passion behind Cannonball and the Cannonballers and the history of it, which he's pretty well versed as well. Which it's nice to see that you are well versed, that you did your homework, because it would be pretty. I'm not going to say wrong, but it wouldn't be that healthy to not have done your homework and to just throw it out there and say, you know what, fuck you, I got the trademark, go fuck yourself.
Totally.
And that's it. So, I can appreciate the passion behind it. I know what it is to organize a rally, and I know the trials and tribulations that you've been through. So let's fast forward, or reverse if we should, the next Cannonball Run 2.
Zach, why don't you take that?
Cannonball Run 2. Well, the overall concept, since we haven't actually gone into detail, even with our returning participants, is Motor City to Mexico, which means Detroit down and then a finish line in Mexico. The driving
You better hope
next
Donald
year
doesn't
is
build the
gonna-
wall by then.
Well, we're going to fly, so it'll be okay.
We'll get the Donald on it. The
You should
beast.
drive through. I would drive through. That would be gangster.
That would be
That would be
I would
gangster.
That
absolutely.
would be dope.
There would be no logical or smart reason to drive through Mexico to Cancun. We would.
Oh, well,
That's fine.
Cancun's a different story, but what about Baja, Mexico? That would be cool.
It would be.
As soon as we cross the border with $30 million worth of exotic cars, I can guarantee you we'd have some.
We'll get shot.
we'd
Yeah,
have
but I
some-
can get you. I can get you El Chapo to guard you. We're good.
That'd be so sick.
I don't know that would be. They're still running the Carrera Pan America, which takes an enormous amount of work.
Yeah.
I've been a part of the Baja races. The insurance and whatnot to do that would be very difficult. But
All right. So as of now, you're talking about Motor City to what point in the U.S. where you leave to go to Cancun?
Taos, New Mexico, or the northern half of Texas. We're still finalizing details right now, but our finish will either happen in New Mexico or northwestern Texas. Our route isn't going to go directly from Detroit south. Our route is going to go up along the Canadian border, visiting some of the Wisconsin, Michigan.
Let me just give you one bit of advice: stay the fuck out of Oregon.
We're not going nearly that far.
Don't go
west.
near there
We're going
at all.
We're going to stick in the middle of the country again to some areas that the rallies haven't gone to, and for the adventure reason and for the selfish reason. I mean, all of us as owners get to go on these rallies a couple times a year. We also want to do things that we haven't done before. We want to do areas of the country that we haven't been before, and we want to take people there. We want to go and say, what's neat? There's 50 states in the U.S., not 4. So doing the same rally to the same 4 states every year after year after year. This is our vacation too. We want to go do something fun. So we're going to check out some areas that are, again, off the beaten path, some great driving roads, some great hotels, and some stuff that when you go on vacation, you don't generally go to those places. I mean, people go to Mexico on vacation, or people go to New York or Los Angeles or Florida, and we incorporate some of that. But some of it we want to get out there. We want to bring the people that come over from Europe, the people that come from Russia. People that come from Russia don't go to, Wisconsin on a normal base on their vacation. They go to Beverly Hills or New York City, or it's just a matter of fact. If I had to fly 18 hours, I'm going to pick the destination city. That's just kind of the way it is. So we'd rather show everybody the entire country. And I think when I travel, I like to do the same. I like to go off the beaten path.
Cool. Well, if you allow me to sell T-shirts and podcast memberships, we'd be happy to join you.
I'll do some public speaking.
You've been awfully quiet today, by the way.
Yeah, well, in respect, I think that you are you're well spoken. Like I said, you're well vetted, and I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Listening to Alex Roy, he is also very well vetted. He's also very well spoken, and he made a very convincing argument.
He made a good argument, but again, it's a different perspective.
Absolutely.
So.
And there was also information that I wasn't aware of that I'm now aware of, But yeah, I enjoy listening,
Great. So, okay, so we're going to start to wrap this up. Before, a lot of our listeners like to know who you guys are, where you're from, and what brought you into the car game. So why don't you give us a quick rundown, each of you, just a quick bit of history and what got you involved in the car game and what you currently drive, because everybody's always interested in that.
So I could start. Again, to the contrary of the million things that were inaccurate in Roy's article, we are not just a bunch of businessmen and lawyers, which he said we were. I actually have a degree in automobile design. And
you're born and raised from?
Born and raised in Los Angeles, California, where I've lived my whole life. I'm for work. I've been displaced here in New York for the past 7 years, but will eventually make my way back to California. I am a typical California massive car enthusiast. I used to want to be an architect until the day I got my driver's license, and then I decided I want to not design houses, but design cars. So I was able to get into a school called Art Center College of Design, which is one of, if not the number one automobile design school in the world. Graduated from there. Never worked in the automobile industry because I decided to follow some entrepreneurial endeavors. But as far as my car world goes, I eat, sleep, and drink everything automotive all the time. After this podcast, we're going to go back into my office and you'll see it's nothing but wall-to-wall car stuff. For myself, I am a bigger lover of vintage cars than modern cars. Whereas I've had a lot of modern cars, I'm relatively, when it comes to sports cars, a Ferrari guy through and through and through and through. A Ferrari guy, an F1 guy. So all my exotics have been Ferraris. On the newer side, my first car was a 360, then I had a 430, then I had a Scuderia. I just got an F12 last year, which I got rid of, not because it wasn't brilliant. It was sickly brilliant, but if I'm reaching for a car, I'm reaching for vintage. So
what do you have that's vintage right now?
Oh boy, on the list. Okay, so in the vintage world, I have a 1960 250 GTE, but it's the pre-production Paris Car Show GTE. It was the press tour car. It's Enzo Ferrari's car for a while, so it has
cool.
a couple things that are a little bit differentiated than the production GTE. I have a 1960 250 Series 2 Cabriolet that also has some custom coach work on it. It has 410 Super America side vents, some other things that are differentiated in the interior. That car is currently being restored right now by the other gentleman on the line. I have what's next? I have a steel body dry sump Euro spec 308 GTB. So it's one of the original 150 308s that were made after the fiberglass cars. So before they started bastardizing the design with all the crazy things they started doing in the later 80s. I have a 1991 Testarossa, a just got... Which
color is that?
Pardon me?
What color is that?
Well, it only came
White?
in one color for the most part. No.
Red.
We like red. We like white. Mine
It
is white style.
It looks great in white.
Does it have that the mirror that's up at the top of the A-pillar?
the single mirror. No, it doesn't have a single mirror. It has the dual mirrors.
Meh. We're over that.
Then I just recently purchased a 1983 512 BBI, which is going to be my car next year on Cannonball. Actually, I'm taking 2 vintage cars on Cannonball next year. That'll be one of them.
Who's driving the other?
We are.
Well, no, it'll be split. Half it'll be in a truck. Half of
Right.
it will be in the Testarossa, most likely, and then the other half will be in the BBI. Super fired up about the BBI, the first mid-engine V12 Ferrari ever made. It was a car that Enzo said he would never make,
Right.
but coming off of the success of the Mura, and then knowing the Countach was going to launch, he agreed to it. So they took and made a version of the V12 engine that was literally in their Formula One car.
Oh, boy.
Enzo never wanted to make the car because he was convinced people were going to kill themselves, but made it. Was never too expensive to do the crash testing on, so was never slotted for delivery in the United States, but there was a handful of them that were brought in. So that car, and then I have the newest car I have, I would say, outside of the F12, which I just recently sold, is a 348 Spider.
Oh, I had one. I was just talking about that today. Yeah, I had one of those. It was a fun car.
Yeah, it's a neat car. It was the first full convertible Ferrari ever made, mid-engine full convertible they ever
sort
made.
of reliable.
Yeah.
I
Wait a
really didn't
second.
have any issues.
What about the Mondial?
The
Mondial.
It was the 2+2. First
Yeah.
mid-engine
Mondial was a
2+2.
mistake.
Yeah, Mondial was a mistake.
But it was mid-engine, yeah?
You're right.
Yeah,
it was
it
a
was.
mid-engine,
Convertible.
and
Yes.
it was a full convertible. But in that lineage of the two-seater sports car, it was their first full convertible, coming off of the GTSs they already had. And they made 1,000 of those, so I thought it was interestingly collectible.
You know what you need, right?
Yes.
P45.
I saw it this
Sure.
weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome
I saw it
car.
when it was first finished.
Yeah.
That's an amazing piece
Oh,
of
you
work.
did? The
Oh,
first
the P-
P45?
Wait, the P45 meaning Glickenhaus P45?
Glickenhaus,
Yeah.
Right when he finished it and brought it up to Pebble Beach, I saw it.
That's years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been again, contrary to Alex Roy saying we're not car people. I've been going to
What does Alex
Pebble
Roy
Beach
rhyme
for.
with?
Pardon me,
What does Alex Roy rhyme with?
little boy. Yeah, I've been going to Pebble Beach for 13 years, and showing cars for 12 years. So,
Wow.
I've been in the car community back when I would go to Pebble Beach, and it was seriously only old timers, way before the Ramins and Amy's of the world. In
course.
fact, it was Zach and myself who were telling those gang, you got to start going to Pebble. But so that's me in a nutshell. Zach, who also has a fantastic car history.
Zach, you care to share?
Yeah, I do. I tell this story quite a bit, and I think I told it a lot of times on the rally. But so I'm a California boy, born and raised. Family was split between the Bay Area, Santa Cruz, and down here in Southern California. So I grew up in the 70s, 80s in the California college culture. Used to build Dodsons up in Santa Cruz and Saabs. I worked, one of my mentors, before I was even a teenager, I used to work on Saabs, and we used to build Datsun 510s that would race back and forth between San Jose and Santa Cruz. That was there's a Highway 17 up there that people would run on. That was kind of the Mulholland of Northern California. And when I came down here, the drag racing scene was still pretty popular in Southern California, and I grew up, or my dad's house was within a quarter-mile driving distance from the Carlsbad Raceway, which is one of the last of the old-timer quarter-mile drag strips in Southern California where Snake Prudhomme, he actually had a shop there until they finally shut it down, and everybody. And I was building Volkswagen race motors for the guys out in the desert and in Southern California as a teenager. Started drag racing at Carlsbad, had my Mustang, which I still have, that I built into a dragster. And then when it came time to go to college, I had started interviewing with the Nissan GTP team that was just around the corner from us. It was the first Japanese race team in America that was running their division here in Southern California, right next to that track. And they looked at me when I wanted a real job with them and said, you have to have a degree. And so I went to college solely to get a degree so I could go racing. That was my only purpose in life, was to be a race engineer. I did stuff with Toyota, with Honda, both in their kart racing division and in their customer car racing division, some of the touring car series, some of the other stuff. And somewhere along the way with racing and never having time to be home and be with my wife and things, I fell into a job where I took an ad in a newspaper that said vintage Ferrari engine builder. And because I've been building race motors forever and thought, well, that's a perfect fit, I went and decided to, 22 years old, 24 years old, to build vintage Ferrari motors. And I knew Ferraris, I'd always loved them since I was young, but I'd only ever seen a 308. That was the earliest car I'd ever seen. I didn't know there was 25 years before the 308 of Ferrari until I first got a 330 GTC motor dumped in my lap all apart. So a 1967 Ferrari V12, figure it out. Pre-internet, pre-anything, the only way to work on vintage Ferraris was to know who to call, and to get the parts took months and years to get all the parts. But I fell in love with it, and it was a passion that I had, and so since then I've been restoring and racing and doing rallies, and mostly Ferrari, but a lot of vintage Italian stuff. That's what I continue to do as a profession right now.
So that I don't want to interrupt you, but that's your job. You have a shop, or?
Yeah, I own a shop. I restore. That's actually how I met Scott. Is I restore some of his cars, but I have a shop restoring basically vintage pre-1972 Ferrari, some Maserati, some Lamborghinis. But that's what I do day to day.
Cool. So what do you daily drive?
What do I daily drive? Generally something of the Ford pickup range, but I have plenty of toys too. I had a 550 Maranello that I drove for a long time. That was my first modern Ferrari.
It's a great GT car.
It was open exhaust, lowered as far as it would go, murdered out, as Scott would say.
My man.
Windows. Everything I could do to not make it look like a Ferrari, I did to it. And I've had a few vintage stuff that I play with. I was daily driving the Mira for a while, but it doesn't like the heat, and it doesn't like
to be daily driven. Let's face it.
It does not like stop and go traffic, and it definitely does not like the heat. There's a few comfort and convenience things, and now with my new rally toy that I got this year, I'm finding that a little difficult to daily drive, so I'll probably stick with the Ford pickup.
Which is?
The Wraith, the Rolls-Royce Wraith, which is the opposite of a mechanic's type of car. So.
That's a monster heavy car.
Yeah.
What did you drive
in the rally car for where I live? It definitely does not fit in, and it is not my personality type, so it's fun for the rally. It worked it was 100% mobile office this year. We had everybody not driving in the car was on laptops and phones to make the rally happen. And I did not know how much stuff I could pack in the trunk of that thing, but I packed an entire truck's worth of stuff in the trunk of that car, so it did serve its purpose.
Well, that's good. So I want to interrupt you. What did you drive on a rally, Scott?
I drove a Bentley Continental GT V8S.
Oh, okay. How's just out of curiosity, is that your car? You own that car?
Yeah.
It's yours? How's the gas mileage versus the 12? Is there a major difference or not really?
I don't know because I never owned the 12, but I will say that.
Well, the 12 was a pig. I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, so after moving to New York, I really wanted a car that had all-wheel drive, and I always kind of wanted to own a Continental GT. I never did in California because they seem to be everywhere, and so I loved the car. I thought it was interesting, but never got one. So when I moved here, I kept test driving the V12, every form of the V12, from the Super Sports to the Speed, and I just hated it. It was so nose heavy. Everything about the car, I just absolutely could not deal with. Coming from a guy that was driving Ferraris all the time, I just couldn't deal. Then I saw some great reviews on the V8, went out, test drove it, and wow, I got nothing but sick things to say about that car. It's the sport version, has a sport exhaust, which sounds brilliant. Everything about that car is remarkable. It's a remarkable vehicle. The road feel, the response, the engine.
Not
drive
that you
one and
really
you'll see.
care about economy when you're driving a car like that. I was just curious because I had the 12, which was an absolute pig.
I was going to say, I had the Continental Super Sports, and we had a Rentac tune and exhaust on it, and we got maybe 8 miles a gallon.
Yeah, it's awful.
Maybe.
It's awful. I mean, I
It's
never,
a turbo car, though.
I never peaked more than like 12 miles per gallon, which is just terrible.
Yeah, but you got a Bentley. You can afford gas. You're good.
True.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
right,
Zach,
so-
wait, before we go, hey, Zach, T-minus here. Do you have anything left from your younger days that's JDM? Anything Toyota or Datsun, Honda, anything left?
My brother still has my 88 Civic hatchback SI that I had. I think he's pretty much run it into the ground. I had an 88 Civic SI that I did, and a CRX, and then because I worked on the program at Honda when they were doing the H22A motor, the Prelude motor, I have a couple of motors, experimental stuff that I did back in the day that's tucked away.
I'm going to need one of those. I also have a 89 Honda CRX with just about 550 horsepower.
Yeah, my brother has the opposite version. He has the HF
All right,
89 CRX.
high fuel. Yep.
It gets like
The
70 miles to
slowest
the
car
gallon.
known to man, but it got 50 miles to the gallon in 1989, which is pretty impressive.
Unheard of.
But I think-
Absolutely.
That thing is held together with bubble gum and duct tape.
I believe it.
But it's still running.
Cool.
Yeah, the JDM days down here in Southern California, they really crescendoed and became.
Yeah, it's
almost
oversaturated.
problematic.
Yeah.
It became really problematic too, though, because you couldn't even drive anything on the road out here when
Without getting pulled over.
when the street racing thing really hit its heights out here, it was really out of control. So I think that just kind of kiboshed the whole thing.
Same here in New York.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna start wrapping this up. First and foremost, thank you for taking the time out of your busy days. I know we're on East Coast time here, and it's getting dark so early, and you're on West Coast, and I know that we're right smack in the middle of your day.
Yep.
We're going to go around the room real quick and tell us where we can find information on the rally, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if you want to give a quick shout out, Scott.
Yeah, I'll speak to the rally and let everybody talk about social and digital, but under the rally, it's just cannonballrun.com. I'll repeat that, cannonballrun.com. We do not have any information up on the past route or the new route yet. But if you go to the website, you could sign up to be kept informed, and we will be releasing the full route, I would say, in a couple weeks here, maybe less. Okay. And then all that information for sign up, route, etc., will be back up on the website.
You also have Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram?
Yeah, they have Instagram, and it's Cannonball Rally. The same on Facebook, and then no Snapchat.
No Snapchat.
No Snapchat.
I ran my
That's
Snapchat from their event.
That's it. We're done.
It's hard to build a Snapchat following from nothing now. It's just very hard to get people to
It's hard to build
migrate
anything
to.
these
From
days.
nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
It's not organic any longer.
But I'm glad you guys. Honestly, I'm glad the rally worked out well. I'm glad it was a success. We look forward to seeing the route for next year, and hopefully, God willing, maybe we'll all be able to participate. And again, thank you for taking the time out of your days and joining us on the Car Lifestyle Podcast. And I am Seth Rose. You can find me at Exotics Rally.
I'm Elizabeth White, and you can find me at It's White Noise on all platforms.
And I am T-NYC, and you can find me at T-_CarLifestyle.
Thank you, and that's a wrap.
Car Lifestyle.